You can be brief in your comments, and if you all have the same message, again, please very much keep your comments brief. So the first two I have is Zoe Presson and Nicole Johnson. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Zoe Presson. I'm a member of the Committee on Accessible Transportation, the TriMet. But my concern is about the news story they did on, I believe it was Channel 8, but it was one of our major channels, one of our major TV channels, where they talked about a bus driver refusing to load a wheelchair user on the bus because there were vehicles parked in the stop. Now, something my husband mentioned to me this morning was in Seattle, Washington, and San Francisco, California, they do not have parking in bus stops. If I need to, I will go to City Council and mention this to them as well. Something must be done. Number one, the driver needs to be very much reprimanded for refusing to load a chair user. And as I said, the parking issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. President. I appreciate it. I know staff was looking into this one. I think there was a number of issues. I hadn't heard about the parking, so thank you for those comments. We'll do some further look into that because you're right. We need to make sure we get more people on the bus. All right, Nicole.
All right, good morning, or kind of afternoon, but good morning. President Horner and members of the board. My name is Nicole Johnson, and I'm the youth organizer at Opal and also a member of Bus Riders Unite. Today I'm going to keep my comments short and sweet. But first of all, I would like to acknowledge the board for your awesome discussion at the board retreat. It was great to hear all of your thoughts and your discussion around the fair transfer policy. It's clear that you all understand that extensions of transfer times are important to bus riders. And I want you to understand that we are asking you to do something ordinary by extending transfer times and in turn give back something extraordinary, time, which bus riders really need. We are not asking necessarily time for a specific round trip, but time for bus riders to be mobile. Our members have made it clear that we are willing to negotiate extended evening hour transfers as good faith compromise, but we're not satisfied with an additional 30 minutes. We are asking for 3 hours to restore original weekend transfer times that were cut due to the switch to automatic ticket machines, and to equalize that time across the board so that every day, at any time, we have 3 hours. You have heard from riders, and I hope to come back in November and celebrate with the TriMet board to celebrate our 3-hour transfer extensions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate the comments. Next two, we have Keith Scholes and Lou Turner. Maybe you have a surrogate talking on there. Want to?
Do you want me to go out now?
Actually,
I do.
I already have Mary.
Oh.
She's in there already.
I think she's going to testify on
Okay.
behalf of Lou.
Oh, okay, all right.
So that's what's going on here.
Yeah, my testimony.
Go ahead.
My phone this time for it's using technology, you know.
Kent, it's not raining out, by the way.
Yeah, okay, here it comes up. Okay.
Do it next week.
Good morning. I am Keith Schultz, a transit-dependent resident of Gresham. I'm also a volunteer and advocate with Opal and Bus Riders Unite. I rode the number 9 here today, and it took me just a little over an hour to get here. And this means if I wasn't an honored citizen, it would cost me $5 just to give this testimony, just like many of my friends here today. I'm coming to you to commend you on your consideration of the campaign for a fair transfer. I was at your retreat last week. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you to the board member that expressed their support for longer transfers at the retreat. And thank you for having such a serious conversation about this important issue to transit-dependent folks. That is what my transparency raincoat represents. I have worn this raincoat for over 2 years now to remind you of your responsibility to be open and honest with people like me. In the time that I have been coming to these meetings and been a leader in the community around transit issues, I have seen TriMet and his board and the board make real improvements in transparency, and I hope to see it continue. I am pleased that you are considering the CFT, the Campaign for a Fair Transfer, but I'm concerned about your suggested 2.5-hour limit. 3 hours is really the minimum necessary if TriMet wants to relieve the burdens low-income riders already face and encourage brand new ridership at the same time. In fact, it was TriMet policy for drivers to give 3 hours on weekends before the new ticket machines were installed on the buses last summer. Riders want that hour back. Riders need that hour back. And I am asking for equality for all. 3 hours to travel 7 days a week. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. So on behalf of Lou Turner, you want to introduce yourself again?
Okay. My name is Mary Whitmore. I'm a retired teacher from Forest Grove. I've been transit dependent since 1983. I think I'm the only teacher in Oregon that got her license at PSU from Forest Grove using the bus. I want to join in and give Dan a hard time. His beard is way too trimmed. Just out of curiosity, I'd like to know how many people here are paid TriMet employees. Could you just raise your hand? So that would be maybe 25% or 30. Good. In 2006, I started a petition to have the system, TriMet system, fare-free, because I divided your expenses by the number of people you served, and the cost was closer to $25 a ride than $2.50. The amazing part was that the cost involved in collecting fares was actually a wash with the fare box revenues. That's 10 to 12%. Since TriMet is already paid for by public taxes, it did not seem then, and it does not seem now, that we should have to pay again for the ride. And how many people are here from Opal or connected to? Whoa. Maybe 20%. What would it take to get a resolution put to have a consumer position on your board? What would that take? That's a question.
It's up to the governor to decide who's on the board. He can do that tomorrow.
The governor could do it tomorrow. Cool. All right, thank you. I do identify with TriMet's goal of helping people, and I have a retirement dream to help people too, and I'd like to use this moment, this minute, to share that with you. The connection with TriMet is a little distant, but I think you can see it if you know how to look at the big picture. I'm really saddened by our state's abysmal reading scores that were revealed on September 12th. I have been advocating for explicit phonics in my district for 6 years with the Forest Grove School Board. And I know that all Oregon schools are suffering. Oregon public schools are deliberately choosing an expensive reading programs that do not work and avoiding free programs that do work. This has been going on for 93 years.
Thank you, Mary and Lou.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, good. All right. Yep, thank you.
I do want to apologize for everybody else that's coming up, that I have to go, but I certainly want to hear what's being said, so I'm not, so I am disappointed that I won't get a chance to, so I do apologize.
Thank you. So I have Patrick Stanley and Vivian Satterfield. And who might you be rooting for in a World Series?
I don't know, maybe Boston. All right, hey, good morning, everybody. One of these days I'm going to come and give a presentation that's actually scripted, but I find it's more easy to actually just talk about the things that are pressing on my mind, particularly because of what I hear in the meeting. And one of the things I want to echo about, I have no affiliation with Opal or Bus Riders Unite, but I do agree with them that we do need to come up with a fair transfer policy. I have two reasons for that. First, I ran calculations on TriMet's map, which actually turned out to give me wrong information on this, but it was either from like Rivergate area to Gladstone, or it was from Forest Grove to Troutdale. I can't remember which one. The point was it took longer than 2 hours to get from there to there, and that was not being on the bus. So you actually had to transfer after the 2 hours, and that just, it doesn't work. If you got to go from one end to the end, you have to buy the $5 anyways. I think if you're going from across town, if you have to commute that way, then you should be able to do it on one ticket. And the other thing is the fact that with TriMet's, a lot of the issues that I still echo relating to reliability. If it's hard, if your bus is late because it broke down or Max got stuck. Like I was on the red line that had to be decoupled this morning because the front train broke. At least they decoupled it and ran the back car in service instead of just, taking the whole thing out. But if that happens, how in the world how am I going to get where I'm going on my ticket when in reality that ticket expired because TriMet service did not come through when it needed to. It wasn't my fault that my ticket expired. So, being a person who does get passes and has used the app and the ticket machines on the buses, I've been able to experience it all and kind of see it from that perspective. And so I definitely encourage all members of the board to approve this in the future when it comes before the board. It's very important. And another thing that I think is, let me just ponder quickly. I like the pumpkins when I'm thinking about it. I'm very happy to all people related to TriMet that finally the west side of Portland has now been noticed, and now our average bus age is going to drop from 14 years to 5 years with not only the addition of the new 3100 series buses out at Merlo, but also the moving of the 2800 series buses from Center to Merlo, and then now our buses are not as old as I am, which is good. But so thank you, and I hope very, very vehemently that this will continue this trend. I think transit equity is really important, but I also think that you got to consider all parts of the system. And lastly, I think there was one more thing on my mind.
That's frequent service on your
Yes, yes, frequent service was on my mind. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And then it beeps. Just keep it up. That's all I had to say. Keep it up. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Board President, members of the board. I'm Vivian Satterfield, the Associate Director of Opal Environmental Justice Oregon, and a member of Bus Riders Unite. You have to bear with me, my handwriting is deplorable. I'm trying to read this. Last week during the board retreat, those in attendance were able to witness a frank discussion by members of this board to extend transfer times. The serious consideration of a rider-generated proposal can be celebrated, but not without giving acknowledgement to the 3-year history of tireless outreach, research, and advocacy. Indeed, it is because of countless testimonies, meetings with members, conversations at bus stops, coffees with TriMet staff and members of this board, and endless Excel workbooks that we're able to have confidence that extension of transfer times to 3 hours, in which all travel within that time allotment is valid, round trip or otherwise, is what would benefit all riders, but especially those who depend on it as their lifeline to opportunity. We're sitting here opposite of you in the stark light and knowledge that we are not the decision makers. That is a designation that comes with sitting in the seats that you currently occupy. We are, however, the faces, voices, and stories that make up your weekly and annual fare box revenue. We are the patiently waiting and shuffling feet on the pavement, greeting the drivers during the beginnings, middles, and ends of our days. We are well organized, we are every bit as capable, and we are ready for you to make 3-hour transfers every day, all day, a part of TriMet policy. Thank you.
All right, the next two we have are Lynn Barrett and Terrence Coleman. I will point out we do have, at least I have some written testimony from Terrence. Just one, okay, I can pass it around. That's since I have to have read it. Good morning.
Morning. I'm Lynn. I haven't seen you guys in a while, and I must say, this is the best board meeting I've ever been to. I can't help it. It's like restore service. It's just really, I'm really like, wow. I have to say that first. And on another note too, your frequent service is excellent. However, don't forget, it's only as good as all the other pieces coming into the frequent service to help. So that's great, but we, you know, you all know. I'm gonna read this. Oftentimes I hear a conversation about TriMet, and it's amazing how many people acknowledge that you're a business and need to make money. My understanding is that ridership continues to rise as the times of downturn drag on, and more people lose more independence in their lives. TriMet is in a unique position to uplift Portlanders in a huge way by giving us the 3-hour transfer. Can you imagine? A government agency deciding to go against the norm and give something back to the community that they are an integral part of, and you know that you are. You would be sending a clear message that the Tri-County area is extremely important and that it would yield both financial and community success for everybody in this region. Many more drivers may be willing to spend time, or many more car drivers, I should say, would be more willing to spend time on transit, which is where we spend a lot of our time unless we're waiting. For example, if I have a 2-hour ticket, I live on 162nd and Burnside. I want to go to Fred Meyer's on 148th and Division. I have to go a very long way to get to a very short, relatively short distance. I'm not asking to do my whole grocery shopping, but I am asking for the opportunity to perhaps get off, go pay a bill, drop a book at the library on my way to somewhere else as any other car driver would do. That's all. So there are all kinds of examples of this, and I don't feel like that, you know, I just want you to just give us back and acknowledge that our time is valuable, and by giving us that extra hour, you are saying, yes, thank you very much for your time, and like I said, this is the best board meeting ever. Just gotta say that.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, members of the board. As you may know, my name is Terrence Coleman, and I'm an unemployed job seeker, and I'm an American person of color. I'm a veteran of the 82nd Airborne, and I'm rapidly approaching senior citizen status. And I'm transit dependent. Today I have the rare and unexpected pleasure of appearing before you to encourage you to take the last and extremely important step to embrace and enforce a 3-hour transfer. As an example of how helpful the 3-hour transfer will be to me, it's been my experience that if a condition is outstanding in one person's life, said condition also touches countless others. In my quest for employment, I traveled to Lake Oswego. Check the map. Scheduling 2.5 hours is not enough. 1 5-minute delay in transfer service or bus or max line, and being late can translate into 20-minute waits or longer. It would be a great thing to have an extra hour, especially on trips to the far reaches of the system. It also ensures that employment in the outlying regions is more accessible to the transit dependent. This in turn creates revenue tax, a portion of which ends up in TriMet's coffers. This at any standard is a win-win situation for all involved. and one that will pay an invaluable commodity of goodwill. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence, for your input. Thanks. All right, Susan Mund and Jim Howell.
Good morning, still.
It is, getting close though.
Well, I'm Susan Mund, and I'm a member to the Community Alliance of Tenants. I sit on their board, and founder to We Are Rockwood, a social justice movement in the Rockwood neighborhood, which is West Gresham. And one of the things that I had noted was hearing, how this is Portland. Well, I want to present this is Rockwood, and I think it was Director Osmond. And I really appreciate having that opportunity, because in Rockwood, our transportation needs, one, it's the highest area within Multnomah County with the lowest incomes. We have 40,000 people living in Rockwood, but there's only one north and south transportation, and there's one grocery store, and that's Albertsons on 181st and Gleason, where my friend Lynn Barrett was able to share with you the amount of time that it would take to get to the Fred Meyers. I actually wrote it all out in a little bit of a map and color-coded it. As a person who lives on Burnside, East Burnside, to get to the 148th would be to take either the MAX station going eastbound to the Gresham Transit Center, catching the number 4 bus going westbound again. So that's a huge inconvenience. It doesn't make sense within my time. And I'm just getting a loaf of bread, a stick of butter, and a gallon of milk at an affordable price, as opposed to even trying to get to any of the area's supermarkets. There aren't any. I have Albertsons, which is higher priced than Fred Meyers. To get to Albertsons on 181st, I would take the MAX station to 181st and hope to catch the number 87, which is a rush hour service that only works on the weekdays. Now, let's compound that to I have a family. So it's not only about the frequent services, and it's about the time and how long it takes us, and the inequities right in Rockwood, and how important it is for those who are housed in the area to have better access and more time, and they have more people. If a mom and her father are traveling with their children, that gives them even, there's more schlepping to do, there's things picking up, and we have to get a 3-hour transfer so that more families have better time and equity in getting what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Good comments. Jim, nice to see you.
Mr. President, members of the board, my name is Jim Howell. I'm here representing AORTA, Association of Oregon Rail and Transit Advocates, in support of the 3-hour transfer and the extended operation in use in the evening. I know that I've heard that there's some concern about, on your board, about return trips on the same ticket. This is something that's been in effect since 1982. I know that because I worked at TriMet as a service planner in the late 70s and early 80s when it was changed. And it was changed mainly for a different reason, and that was that they couldn't, with the introduction of more of a grid system in 1982, it was hard to kind of determine which direction you were going, and it was a little difficult for the operators. But once it happened, they found that actually it increased ridership. And that's something that I think you should really be looking at. I was looking at your, this month, you're down 5%. I don't ever seen a decline in month-to-month ridership that great for many, many years. In fact, I've never seen it that low, and your light rail and frequent service is down 7%. I would be worried if I were in your position. That's not good. Now, hopefully, the frequent service is going to bring some of that back. But this is a way you can bring ridership up and not cost you anything. And it's not going to cost you a penny by extending the 3-hour extension. And the reason for that is that the few people that would have to pay the $5 instead of the $2.50, and once you lose there, you're going to more than make up for those that are going to leave their cars at home and actually use transit for that 3-hour trip. They have a meeting to go to, a 2-hour meeting. You know, they say, well, I'm not going to pay $5 I get in my car. And so I know your analysis doesn't show that, but many times in the history of TriMet there's been a case where the experts have said one thing, and when we did something differently, they found out it worked better than the experts. So I've had enough experience in transit over the years it's just, I might say, gut feeling, but you are going to actually end up with more revenue and obviously more ridership, and that's really what you should be looking seriously at.
Thank you, Jeff, for the comments. All right, I have one more person who's signed up, Mary Week, and come on up. Is there anybody else in the audience that didn't sign up? Come on up, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here this morning to advocate for TriMet to increase the transfer time to 3 hours. From talking to numerous bus drivers, I was told that at one time the 2 hours was calculated from the time the bus was scheduled to reach the end of its run before returning to its point of origin. As the 2-hour transfer is now calculated from the moment the passenger enters the bus, this decreases the overall travel time for the passenger substantially. For example, if I am traveling from the Oregon City Transit Center to downtown Portland, by the time I reach 6th and Taylor on the number 33 bus, a minimum of 45 minutes is already used up on the transfer time. If there are any delays whatsoever, for example, the Hawthorne Bridge is up and all traffic is stopped, or if there are difficulties with disabled passengers, by the time I am in Portland, the remaining time on the transfer could easily be only 1 hour. This potentially is very problematic for a senior citizen who does not zip around at full speed. If taking more than one bus to a destination and having only 1 hour to wait for other buses to arrive at one or more stops, bear in mind that sometimes it's necessary to walk a short distance to that stop. This contributes to the stress of reaching a final destination on time. Additionally, this leaves little or no time for any side trips. Often too, using that transfer to return home is virtually impossible. This was not the case when the transfer times were calculated differently. It is my sincere hope that TriMet will put its riders first and foremost and find a way to reprogram the bus computers so as to give each passenger a 3-hour bus transfer. Thank you for your sincere consideration of this proposal, which will, I'm sure, increase your ridership and promote goodwill in the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Bill Wimmer, President, ATU 757 Retiree Chapter. This morning when you came in, you probably saw a manila envelope on your counter. I would suggest that I would like you to read the information that is in that envelope and take into serious consideration the changes that are being asked. I won't go into any of the details or whatever, but I've been president of the Retirees Chapter for almost 10 years. And all I hear, and I would cordially invite any one of you or all of you board members to attend a TriMet retiree meeting at your convenience, which is the first Wednesday of every month at Westmoreland Union Manor. We have coffee and donuts at 9. We have meeting starts at 9:30. And I will extend that invitation to any of the TriMet executives that would like to come. I know we are the face of TriMet. I worked at TriMet for 31.5 years as a bus mechanic, and the changes that I have seen over the last 10 years are astounding to me. And it is nothing but frustrating to see what is happening to your system. And a lot of it I attribute to poor management. And I would suggest, as I have to several of your executive officers, that they might look at changing some in-house personnel. I was asked by the business agent of this local union, since he is out of town attending a pension trust meeting, to come and present this to the TriMet board. I thank you for consideration, and I sincerely hope you do read and look at what's in that envelope. Thank you.
Thank you. I have read it, and I'm going to read it in more detail after this meeting. Okay, so that concludes our public forum for the day. Mr. Edmonds, do you have a comment?
Yeah, a comment about the letter that we received in our packet from Neil and Fadi Hamad, the bus driver who was stabbed.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say from here, hopefully TriMet can do everything they can to get him another position.
I haven't had a recent update since I've been out of town for a couple of days, but I do know that Mr. Armand has applied for a couple of positions, and that evaluation's underway, so I appreciate the sentiment.
You know, because it looks like he's been a valuable employee, and hopefully TriMet will do everything they can to work with him. Thank you.
All right, I think our business is done today. Thank you all for coming.